Class. And it's being recorded, so be careful what you say, Chuck. Anyway, we wanted to start off with the transfer station, and Caitlin has some thoughts and the presentation put together, so the floor is yours.
All right. So I spent a lot of time working on this presentation this week. I really reviewed a lot of our resources. I read through the study that the county came out with the transfer station consolidation and program assessment. I read through our survey we did a couple of years ago for all of our residents who regarding the transfer station and waste disposal. I looked through some of our annual reports for the last several years. So I kind of tried to look at all of our resources and use those as kind of a basis for moving forward with our planning process. The first thing is, what do we want our new transfer station to look like? I'm sure if we went around the room, we would all have thoughts and ideas, and, I wanted to just get some simple concepts of things that we probably all would find in common. So we probably want something that's modern, efficient, clean, a high level of service, financially stable operations, and incentivize waste reduction and diversion. So according to the 2019 Community Waste Disposal Survey we did, many of our residents commented that they wanted extended hours. Residents expressed concern over traffic safety. Some cited this as a reason they did not use the facility. Residents commented that they wish for better signage of what materials were accepted, as well as where all of the different materials went. 60% of our residents recalled seeing messaging from the town regarding waste disposal, with the website being the most common source of information. Many residents left comments that they wish to see more information, education, and outreach about our various programs, specifically relating to waste reduction. Many residents commented that they wish to see an area for reusable items and something like a swap shop. And residents overwhelmingly commented that they love the staff and that they like the range of collection programs we offer. So we've been talking a lot about, how are we going to cover costs going forward, especially with a really uncertain future of waste disposal. So I just wanted to review what user-based fee formats are used within Ontario County. This is all information that I pulled out of the Consolidation Transfer Station report. So there's a coupon system or price per item. That's the system we currently operate on. By volume, an example is per bag. By weight, unlimited with an annual permit fee, or a hybrid using select services that are priced differently or services that are free. Most transfer stations are able to offer recycling for free. So these are county examples of user fee-based formats. So currently 7 out of the 14 transfer stations in Ontario County use a pay-as-you-throw system. So that's half of them. 4 out of the 14 operate on a pay-by-weight system: Naples, Manchester, Richmond, and the Village of Phelps. And 3 out of 4 operate on a per-bag fee system: Bristol, Geneva, and South Bristol. So pay-as-you-throw, pros versus cons, and this is specifically relating to our transfer station or future transfer station. So one of the pros of a pay-as-you-throw program is that it eliminates the needs for permits and permit enforcement. It creates a financially sustainable operation, so residents are paying for the waste that they're disposing of. It also promotes waste reduction and diversion. Less waste helps to mitigate uncertain future for waste disposal locations. So since we're not sure what the future holds for the landfill here in Ontario County, if we have less waste, it's going to help mitigate potential costs.
It eliminates need for permits and permit enforcement, anybody could come in and.
Right.
I mean, from any town, any city, anywhere.
So, and that's the user-based fee formats are that, and I go into this in a lot more depth, and I believe it's the next slide. You know, there's some cost calculations. So the idea is that residents are paying for the waste that they dispose of. So it's not on the taxpayer's burden. So it helps with the issue of permit enforcement, which we've identified as one of our main issues. And it's equitable. So a family of 6 with kids in diapers is going to produce a lot more garbage than a retired couple with, you know, an empty nest. So it's more equitable because you're paying for the waste that you produce. Cons, it's initially not going to be very popular with our residents. The time at the transfer station increases. And the maintenance of the equipment used for a pay-as-you-throw program would be increased. So here's a 5-year comparison of our totals, just specifically looking at our municipal solid waste, our C&D, and our recycling. So these are the materials that are all going to the landfill. As you can see, we have kind of an upward trend here. C&D kind of stays fairly similar, and recycling stays fairly similar as well. You know, despite all of our education efforts and changes we've made to our website and presentations and new brochures, we just really have not been able to get this recycling number to budge at all, which is unfortunate because we pay $0 per ton to dispose of recycling. So if we have recyclable materials that are going in with the solid waste, that's literally money that we are throwing away. So really a key to a financially stable transfer station is an increase in recyclable materials collected. Sorry, let's see if I can move this. So I did, you know, it's hard to calculate exactly what the cost of a new transfer station would be. These are very rough cost estimates and calculations. I just wanted to kind of put some numbers together as a starting point. They definitely need more refining. Sorry, I don't know how to get rid of this bar. So I calculated this is the cost of disposing of all of our materials, our MSW, our C&D, our waste oil, our food waste, also any maintenance on our compactors or anything falls under this line. This line here is the cost of things like utilities and maintaining the building. Currently, the transfer station and the highway are all funded through one budget line, so it's not easy to separate those costs out. I calculated it at 1/3 of the total, which is probably a little bit high, but I wanted to overshoot a little bit. As with a new transfer station, the costs of the building are going to be increased. We're probably going to have additional utilities costs, things we may need sprinkler inspections annually like we do for this building. So I wanted to overshoot that. This is Todd's salary and benefits with a little bump. He does typically get some overtime throughout the year. This is a transfer station administrator, so somebody who's handling all of the office work, coordinating payment, things like that. For transfer stations at a minimum wage for 30 hours per week. We had talked about, you know, potentially increasing the hours per week. The cost of the roll-off truck per year. So this is over the 10-year period of that vehicle. So this is the cost of the vehicle spread over 10 years, as well as the annual maintenance and fuel kind of broken down. Container replacement, so we have replaced a couple of those in the last couple of years. So Jim and I kind of tried to calculate over a 10-year period, what the annual cost would be for replacing our containers. Insurance, this was sort of a shot in the dark. I really had no idea how to calculate that. But again, I wanted to kind of overshoot that and calculate a little bit high. So in 2020, the city and the town sent 2,187 tons of material to the landfill. The cost per ton was 190, with all of these costs taken in. So if we were to charge per pound, the cost per pound to the town to dispose of is 10 cents. So I ran a second separate calculation down here where I took out the staff costs. I didn't know if staffing was something we would continue to fund from the A-line, or if it's something that we would want to be covered by these user-based fees. Again, that would depend on if the transfer station was only open to city and town residents, or if there was access expanded to other municipalities in the Ontario County. The one thing that is not taken into effect here is any revenue from the city. So the city currently pays us $1,000 a month in order for their residents to use the facility twice a month. I know that Doug has mentioned the city would like to see expanded access for their residents at a new transfer station. So I'm not really sure exactly what the structure of a new IMA would be. So that is not taken into account here. Does anybody have any questions or think that I missed something, overlooked anything?
Look, great. A lot of work there. Thank you.
It was definitely a lot of number crunching and trying to think outside the box and encompass it.
How does the city pay? No, they have to have a card, punch card.
Yeah, punch card.
What do they pay? What do the residents pay for?
Each punch card is $10. It has 10 $1 punches on it. So that's for anything that goes into the C&D bin, because that's billed directly to the city. I have all of those numbers because the tickets come through this office and I have to report them on our annual report. So I know the amounts, but then that's billed directly to the city. Whereas if the city residents need to dispose of televisions or computer monitors, they purchase coupons through the town of Canandaigua.
So they use the same fee structure that we have for like throwing away couch or chair or whatever like
Yes.
that. So if it's $4, they get 4 punches on their ticket. So.
Correct, yeah. Whereas one of our residents would pay 2 coupons.
How does your 10 cents a pound compare to Manchester's pay-as-you-throw?
So I calculated I looked at all of the 4 transfer stations that charge per pound, and they are all 15 cents pretty much. Manchester charges 14 cents per pound.
Do you know, Caitlin, if they have like an organic collection, so in addition to the municipal waste?
I don't believe any of those municipalities do, no. They do not offer any food waste collection.
Now, Caitlin, do these places here, is it just for the residents or do they take in other people also?
Manchester accepts waste from any resident of Ontario County, maybe outside the county. I know any resident in the county.
I know they expanded it to Wayne County at one point, or at least they were talking about it with a conversation that I had, because they were looking at it as a revenue source.
Yeah. Richmond is open to Canadice and Richmond residents. I do not know about Naples in the village of Phelps, what populations they serve.
Yeah, that's kind of having it open to anybody that wants to come in here. You don't even know if they're from Ontario County. I mean,
Yeah,
that would be a.
and my
I think our residents might
suggestion
have a problem
would
with
be, if this is something that we decide to pursue and this is the sort of structure we want, that, we could always do a pilot system for a few years with just town and city residents. And if it seems like we've worked out the bugs and we could expand and, potentially have an additional revenue source, that's certainly something we could look at in the future.
What is the city asking for specifically? Have they said, I mean, they say expanded hours, but what, for access, I should say, but.
That's a better question for Doug. I'm not clear
So
on that.
the city is interested, the city used to have these bulk waste collections where they would go around and they kind of did away with that.
Spring cleanup.
Right, and the spring cleanup and all that kind of stuff. And I know sometimes I forward calls to Caitlin, we get calls here from city residents wanting to use, and I know that they get a lot. What they have said is they would almost like to partner with us if we're going to construct a new transfer station, maybe even pay half of the cost of the construction of it, partnering with us and having expanded hours, being open more along the lines of whenever it's open, or maybe even 24 hours, maybe even more days a week, whatever the case. We'd have to figure that out. But they're definitely, from the conversations I've had, they're interested in exploring, would be the word I would use, co-construction with us.
Again, some of this comes back, in my mind, at least for me, speaking only for myself, what the county's going to ask us to do. What are they going to do? Is that landfill going to be open after 2028? What condition may they impose or suggest that we follow? I mean, there's still that piece to me that needs to be filled in prior to us saying, well, here's what it ought to look like. And,
So that's where Keil and I, looking at numbers, have a hard time giving better numbers, because are we looking at 3 or 4 different towns plus the city? Or are we looking at us, the city, or are we just looking at us? I mean, there's still a fair amount of unknowns, but if we give more of a worst case scenario cost versus like, it's gonna cost less than we thought, it's hard to give a good answer right now. And I think we know that the county board of supervisors is not necessarily everybody's in favor of that study they did, so.
And the intention of this presentation is to be sort of a broad picture, some broad strokes. It's, not meant to get too far into the details. We need some details to choose a direction. But that's really the presentation here.
Oh, that's great. Before I forget, could you send that to us? I mean,
Yeah,
so we all
absolutely.
had it, so.
Absolutely. I just finished it at about 3:00 yesterday, so that's why I didn't go out with the
I thought
agenda.
it was nice.
And that's why everything's black and white. It's pretty no frills. It's all on content here.
It is black and white.
So what would the cost be to our residents if we pursued a pay-as-you-throw by weight system? So in 2020, we had just over 1,500 households with transfer station permits. The average material sent to the landfill was 53 pounds. Now that includes C&D and MSW. So the average weekly cost per household at 15 cents would be just under $8. And the average weekly cost per household at 10 cents would be $5.30. So the average household at current disposal rates would expect to pay $20 to $30 per month for, now this is MSW and C&D. So, their average weekly cost is probably going to be just MSW. Over the year, they're going to occasionally have C&D, which will drive up the costs.
Do you pay a lower tipping fee for C&D?
Yeah, slightly. Like
So it's worth keeping it separate.
It's like 75 cents a ton or something, so. But it is worth keeping them separate, yes.
And Chuck, we also pay a substantial difference per ton than if you were a private hauler company.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
So I would hope you get that deal.
Yeah. Okay, so what would a 25% reduction in waste sent to the landfill equal? So for our residents, each household would produce 16 pounds less each week for an average of 37 pounds versus 53. The average weekly cost per household at 15 cents would go down to $5.60. And the average weekly cost per household at 10 cents would be $3.73.
So you're assuming if they pay as they go, they're gonna put less in, is that basically what you're saying?
That's the
Yeah,
hope.
they,
That's the incentive.
probably the easiest thing for residents to do would be to start to separate their food waste. It's heavy, has a large volume and it's quite heavy. And that is a program we already have in place that's underutilized. So an average household at a 25% reduction in disposal rates would expect to pay 15 to 25 per month. Again, that's for MSW and C&D. For the town, our diversion rate would climb to approximately 70%. I say approximately because it's hard to calculate exactly, as things are pulled out of the MSW stream, are they going into metal? Are they going into recycling? Are they going into food waste? It's hard to determine exactly where they would go. But we've been holding steady at a diversion rate of 39% since I started calculating it. We haven't really been able to get that number to budge. But with just a 25% reduction in waste sent to the landfill, we would climb to 70%. The county does have a goal in their solid waste management plan of reaching 60% diversion rate by 2024. So this would exceed that goal. In 2020, town staff took 276 trips to the landfill with an average time of an hour and a half per trip. A 25% reduction would mean 69 less trips to the landfill, meaning that the town gets over 103 hours of manpower back. And then this is the last slide. I just wanted to kind of have this up here in case people had specific questions about collection programs or amounts that are brought in. So thoughts, questions?
That food waste is interesting, that it got up to 13.5 tons, I believe, dropped to 8 last year, but probably due to the virus, people they're eating their leftovers instead of throwing them away.
It was really hard to get to the bottom of that number. I did call Impact Earth, who is our hauler, and I said, have you seen this in other municipalities? And they said generally they are seeing food waste collection and composting really skyrocketing. But like you said, with the pandemic, people were home more, they were eating more leftovers. I think also that people had so much going on that, some of the first things to cut were some of these, extra programs or these extra chores. I think people were also trying to just simplify and keep their heads above water. So Impact Earth did suggest just, doubling down on any education and outreach efforts. So that is something I've been trying to focus on early in 2021.
Do you think more people are home composting possibly too?
I would love to hope that that's where all that food waste went.
I think a
I
lot
know
of
a
people
couple more
just
neighbors did.
didn't wanna go out to the transfer station any more than they actually had to, so they
Sure.
just dump that stuff in their trash and forego, reduce the number of trips they made. You can't keep that stuff around,
No.
I think
Is
there's
there
a
any-
number of reasons.
At one point, the state had said this, a few years ago, a couple of years ago, that the diversion of food waste from municipal solid waste was something that the state was going to mandate. It never made it through the budget process. I remember talking to you about it a couple of years ago, but the state has periodically made noise about that and want to encourage people to do that, and that's a great thing. But have you heard of any effort on the state, part of the state, to mandate that? Just, how you do that, I don't know, but I mean, that you have to.
So the state does have a mandate that takes effect, I believe it's January 2023. 22. Oh, even faster. So large generators, any generator who generates more than 2 tons per week of food waste is going to be required and mandated to separate that food waste for recycling.
Who, say that again?
Any large generators, so anybody who generates more
Like
than 2
schools.
tons per week.
But that wouldn't be us generating. What-
No, I don't believe it pertains to, transfer
Collection
stations
point.
at this time. You know, I think this is the first phase of this sort of mandate. And, you know, the mandate has a double effect of, you know, there's gonna be more haulers and there's gonna be more end sites, you know, compost sites. So as that infrastructure sort of falls into place for these large generators, then I think that they're going to say, okay, now anybody who produces more than 1 ton, or maybe they will start lumping in, you know, I think that they'll continue to add more and more people who are mandated to separate. There is one part of the law that I should mention. It's only generators who have a compost facility within 25 miles of them. Originally, I believe it was going to be 50 or 100, and then they did scale that back to 25. So they kind of built in several mechanisms within the mandate where they can easily expand it.
Is there any estimate in that MSW, Caitlin, of what the food waste? Any studies that others have done, maybe what percentage of that? is?
Generally, they say 20 to 25% of MSW is food waste. Since we do offer a program and we do have residents who utilize our food scrap drop-off as well as backyard composting, we've had backyard compost giveaways. The county for the last 2 years has had composting giveaways. You know, we're probably closer to 20%, I would hope, that, you know, a lot of our residents have really taken advantage of these programs.
One program we didn't talk about, but it's very important and very effective here in the town is the yard waste. And I know these numbers don't show any yard waste numbers, and it's tough to quantify because you got people pulling it in, opening the trunk and throwing stuff in the pile, but
We quantify it on our report, we keep track of how many truckloads of, they take out here of ground material. We put it in our annual, what's it called?
Our annual transfer station
Transportation
report.
report, thank you.
How do you come up with that figure?
We do about 100 yards per truck to go out. So if they take out eight truckloads, it's like 800 yards of ground material.
so if you added that number to your diversion rates, it would kick up your 39%.
Yeah,
I guess the state doesn't use that
it
number.
bumps us up to 70% if you include yard waste, because it is a very large volume. But there is a ban in New York State, you can't dispose of yard waste in the landfill.
Yeah, I remember that. We get those notices through Casella, it's Casella Waste. They send it out to your community. Somebody's throwing yard waste into the trash cans. Immediately you get your flyer and says you can't do that.
So I generally don't use that when calculating the diversion rate because it's not, I mean, it is diverted from the landfill, but it's not allowed to go there. And I think it unrealistically inflates our diversion rate.
Yeah, if it's not allowed to go there, you can't really count it as being diverted.
Exactly.
You can't put it in there anyway.
Exactly.
It's not
But they
like
ask us,
somebody's making an effort to
Right.
remove that, you know, so.
but they ask us on the.
Yeah, we still have to report it
Yeah,
on the annual
that's-
transfer station report. So I do, and I like to compare year to year yard waste and kind of track it. And so yeah, the company that comes and grinds it, they tell me how many trucks they take off,
Okay.
and the size of the truck, and then I'm able to estimate it that way. And then Jim takes a look at the mulch pile out back and says, that's about X amount of yards.
You know, and measure it up and,
Well,
Yeah.
they try to do a cone shape,
Volume.
That's volume, sorry. volume calculator and just kind of,
The density.
He uses his experience with trigonometry and.
well, how about trigonometry, that was never my favorite.
The yard waste is inherently a bit more of a rough calculation than some of our other things are much easier to quantify.
On your one data sheet, you had the number of pulls being reduced by the roll-off truck. Wouldn't it essentially just be diverting solid waste to recycling, that the number of pools may not go down that much, because you're still gonna have the same number of pools, but instead of pulling trash, you're pulling recycling
Yeah,
to the same location, yeah.
that is a good point. And also, you know, the food waste we don't haul ourselves. We have a hauler that comes and picks that up for us. And so, you know, if some of that's going into food waste, but that is a point that that number may be a little bit high.
Do you use your roll-off truck for other stuff other than just the,
Just
okay.
only for trash.
So it's, when you dedicated the cost to the transfer station, it's 100%.
What do we pay for the metal that we recycle? Because that's a,
What do you
That's
pay
a-
or what do we
a
receive
revenue.
for revenue?
It varies week to week.
Yeah,
well, I mean, is it on a per pound, less than per
Yeah.
pound basis?
Yeah,
yeah, we go on a scale and measure it, we dump it off, we get weighed again, and then, you know, there are differences, things like 10, 12 cents a pound.
yeah,
So
it's,
that's scrappy.
it all gets reimbursed at the tin rate.
Right.
Which is, yeah,
Lowest, was
Yeah, except to separate everything.
but it does, you know, we get a check pretty much every week for a couple $100s.
Your signs are up,
Are they?
they are.
There is somebody that occasionally helps themselves. The metal is in the bin already. I've been complaining about for some time.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It looks like it's about $12,000 a year approximately.
$1,000 a month.
Yeah.
So including that in our total, I mean, you have to report it, but it's a revenue stream, really.
That's also a revenue stream that is not taken into effect when I did the cost calculations.
Okay.
Your pay-as-you-throw model would actually help you if you lose the county landfill. It would allow you to adjust instantly to that condition,
Yeah,
so you wouldn't be out money.
Yeah.
Right?
right, but, you know,
Yeah.
the town would have to do a significant investment of scales
Mhm.
in order to, they should be covered, because water and scales, no matter or not, usually the load cells don't work so well, they freeze up and you can't weigh anything, so, it's just an expense if the town were to move.
It was probably not factored, there's probably a capital improvement
Yeah,
cost somewhere in there,
no
right?
capital improvement costs were taken into effect in that. That was just for operations of a
That might
new
explain the
transfer
delta
station.
from your 10 cent to 15 cent for some of the other municipalities.
Absolutely.
And then there would be debt service that's not in there too, associated with the construction.
And the other towns that have implemented that pay-as-you-throw, I presume prior to that, it was just come in, build some stuff and take off. There are private haulers out there that are picking it up.
Mhm.
One of the questions is very difficult to get at and answer from is what happens if we go to that? Some people will switch to that, it's not worth my time. I'll just have Casella, whoever come and pick this stuff up.
So,
Well, there's a certain amount of base there that would have helped pay for this and cost would go up. Have you talked to any of the people in those communities and what their experience was relative to that did they see a shift? I mean, they were collecting a certain volume and did it go up or did it go down, or, you know, when they implemented the pay-as-you-throw, or is there any literature that talks about that? Or do you-
I don't have any knowledge. That would be something I think maybe Carla and Regina would be able to talk about a little bit more. They have a better understanding of, you know, the percentages in each town, how many people are having private haulers pick up versus using transfer stations. But I believe 80% of the households in the county
Yeah.
use a private hauler or
Already.
have curbside pickup. Only 20% of residents in the county are using transfer stations. I don't know exactly what that breakdown is for our specific town.
We must have a significant percentage of that 20%. So we've got a couple thousand permits out, so that's
You know, well, I can tell you, my cul-de-sac, there's 9 houses on my cul-de-sac. I am the only one without a private hauler.
good.
I'm the only one.
I think a lot of the subdivisions generally
Yeah,
have
right.
private
Oh, yeah.
haulers.
You drive through there on the collection day,
You know, and then I noticed that the outlying areas of our town, those people don't want to drive in.
Mhm.
So like on Golf Road, there's several people that have trash picked up.
Yeah.
You know, they just don't want to take the time to come here.
Well, and I think it can be, you know, we talked about residents wanting increased hours for, you know, I'm a resident of Canadice and we have a private hauler because the transfer station is only open on Saturday mornings. And if we are out of town for the weekend or it's just, you know, it's not something we're able to fit into our schedule, so we have a private hauler.
Roughly, what's it cost for a private hauler a week or a month or whatever?
We pay about $40 a month. And I was going to get quotes specifically for the town of Canandaigua. I was going to use your address.
Okay.
But I ran out of time. I was on hold with Casella.
I know.
I was on hold with Casella for like 5 minutes and then somebody walked in, so I hung up.
That sounds about right. I think in Monroe County, we're paying like somewhere around $30 to $35 a month. I mean, I think it's pretty.
Makes
anywhere
sense.
from
There's
that-
more population density,
Right.
so the cost is
So
lower.
anywhere from that probably that 30 to the 50 range is probably what people pay, depending upon where you are.
Another area that'd be difficult to get at is how many waste haulers are going to have to comply with whatever rules the county introduces as a result of all this effort. So will that drive more people to come here or will it drive
Right.
people using our transfer station that way? That's an unknown at this point, but it is a consideration, I suppose.
The private hauler rates, they doubled because of it.
Yeah.
Then yeah, you can see a lot of people run to pay as you throw.
I think the town of Canada was also unique in that it's so diverse in terms of like the land use types.
Right.
So I could easily see subdivisions, like maybe if we did this, I might just do a private hauler, to be honest. Versus somebody who maybe lives in a more rural area that's not as convenient for them, you know, and we have both in the town of Canada.
That's really, can't answer that.
Right, that's very
You
true.
know, I could look back in the rearview mirror and see.
Right.
So.
So that was,
Any other questions
That's the
or
spiel.
comments or?
Good spiel though.
It's great, Caleb. Thanks for doing the work.
Yeah, thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think
Start
if you go to
looking
a
at
user-based
administrator.
system, you've got to really, you know, sort of flush out the pay-as-you-throw versus the volume versus, you know, if you charge with stickers or you weigh it. I mean, the mechanics involved in all that is unbelievable.
And the other thing I don't know that I really touched on is we have a really complicated fee schedule for C&D right now. You know, a couch and a love seat are one thing. You know, it's very hard to have a comprehensive list of this is exactly what that's going to cost. So some of it falls to our transfer station attendants to be judging what the cost should be. Whereas if we had a weight-based system, it would kind of remove some of the complications of our current fee schedule.
It takes the subjectivity out of it.
Maybe that could be a first step. And something
Exactly.
like that, Bill, you'd have to have it enclosed, drive through, way in, way out.
And there's nothing saying we can't do some sort of hybrid system here as well, you know, per bag for MSW and per weight for C&D, you know. There's nothing saying that we can't do a hybrid.
How does those other municipalities handle couches, chairs, stuff like that?
I don't know if
Or
they
did
take
it even take?
Manchester does, it's by
Okay.
weight. I've been to the Naples transfer station, I'm trying to think. They do take bulky furniture, I believe that's also by weight. Richmond is by weight. And I'm not super familiar with the Belgium Phelps and how they operate, but I do believe they accept
They do take
bulky
it, though.
C&D items by weight.
Do you know Victor does, didn't they make a bunch of changes within the last couple of years?
Victor?
Yeah.
Yeah, they charge a flat fee, I think $150 a year
And you can
And-
come X amount of times.
times, yeah. They do have a drive-through, one lane drive-through is what they have. One comes in, they throw it out, and you go out there, wait. There's not 16 lanes and, you know, but they have more hours.
Victor has the most hours of any of the transfer station in the county. It varies seasonally, but it's 30 to 34 hours per week.
But if you really wanna try to drive down quantities, you gotta either go by volume or weight, you gotta pay as you go. Otherwise, if you do an annual fee, that's not gonna have that kind of impact.
I understood. I think the reason why Victor went to the annual fee was maybe they want to invest into the scales. We're like, okay, we're gonna try to recoup the best we can with an annual fee. And you have at it. That's
And
what I think,
I
yeah.
do believe Victor is considering building a new transfer station as well. So I think they were trying to work within their current infrastructure.
I remember when they made the changes, there was a big hue and cry about that.
Yes, there
What was
was.
going on, a lot of upset residents.
Mhm.
One of the things we would have to contend with, however we go here, is that 6 to 8 to 10 lane wide
Mhm.
coming down to 2, 3, whatever the number is. It's gonna be a lot smaller than what it is. I mean, we have lines painted, I think, for 4
Right.
lanes out there, but
Well,
mean,
if we,
you usually say
if we
this.
build a new one, we'll have to force the lanes, there won't be any extra place to go, you got 4 lanes and that's all that's there,
oh yeah, yeah, I mean, you're gonna fall off the edge or something.
Yeah, we'll have to make it that way.
I agree with that. When you're done, you're not gonna have the space you have now.
You got a funnel and
Right.
channels where you're gonna throw. So
That's gonna be interesting.
Well,
I know I was talking to, who was here last weekend,
Jim Burke,
Chris, or.
Jim Burke was here last weekend.
Chris was
Anyway,
here Wednesday.
Chris was here Wednesday.
okay, maybe it was on Wednesday. No, it was in the morning. He said that he got here around 7:30 or something.
Oh, that was Jim Burke.
Yeah, it was Jim. They were lined up out the driveway here and parked down
Right.
5 and 20.
Well, that's why, like on that sketch I gave, I tried to
Yeah.
work a long queue on
Well,
it.
Here's the thing about that. So Todd typically starts at 6 a.m. on Saturday. He doesn't stay if he's ready. He opens the gate and there's those early risers. Well, I'm not paying guys extra overtime because technically we don't open until 8.
Mhm.
And man, you get some pissed off.
Oh, yeah, I got complaints about that.
Same on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
3:15.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
at least, yeah.
Hours are hours.
So, and I think, we need to strongly consider expanded hours to help alleviate some of the traffic issues and concerns.
Okay. We beaten this one to death.
Oh, very good.
No, we got a lot more beat to do on this subject, but for today we got
Food
it.
for thought.
Today,
Great work, Kate. Thank you.
thank you.
Number 2 is sanitary sewer discussion.
Well, have you looked at that sketch I gave you? I'm just trying to, game plan, what's the broad concept? Have you sat down with your guys and
No.
looked that or anything?
No.
Yeah.
we
If you
haven't discussed
get a chance to do that, give me some feedback and I can keep doing multiple iterations, just kind of hopefully to give us a broad idea how we would set it up.
tackle this thing. Okay. I'm sorry, Terry, go ahead.
Oh, no, number 2,
Number 2.
you.
Uh,
We're gonna talk to the county.
yep, I reached out to the county and I'm waiting for a response. I copied Jim,
What's that?
we reached out to the county on County Road 28, we're waiting for a
Yes.
response.
How long they had that?
I think I sent them last week maybe.
Yeah, I think it was last week.
I'm sorry, what are we asking for?
We're just looking for some information on the County Road 28 sewer and what kind of requirements the county would impose, particularly because we wanted to account for any additional costs, whether it be on the initial side in studies and or in capital costs. So
You're asking about that Parkside Drive one too, right?
yeah, that was also a specific
Yeah,
request.
That was always, before that was John Barry that always brought that up, so it'll be interesting to see if they have the same.
Yeah, just be really curious as to what, I guess I don't know what section, so I did ask them if they have any information they want to share with us.
One of the
You know, start
drivers'
taking a
troubles
look
is that the area that was defined in the sewer master plan, rough cut at the numbers, too expensive. we'll add some more
Yeah,
in,
we expand
Try
that,
to
yeah,
drive
I
the cost
realize that,
down.
but I wasn't sure.
but that opens up some other questions too, so. No, we're waiting for the county.
Maybe they need a tickle.
More than that.
Or a punch.
They were very persistent about
Just
getting
a nudge.
information on Thomas Road, so I was hoping they would return the.
Yeah, I'll say they return the favor.
Right, so to get
I
a.
don't know about you guys, but I feel like, and especially since Tim has been promoted to the deputy commissioner there, that the response has actually been a lot better. So it's gotten
Yeah, there's more
more
communication.
efficient, more
Yeah.
efficient is what I would say.
Yes, since Tim's taken over, so, yes, I agree.
Is that who you talked to?
No, I sent to Jack,
Jack. So,
because Jack was the person that I was talking to on Thomas Road.
Well, maybe.
I copied it
forward.
I copied it to Steve, Steve May as well, so like, it's.
You should copy with Tim and too, let him
Tim
know.
McGilly, Tim McGilly.
Okay,
He's the new deputy commissioner, right? That's his title, and he's, any conversation I've had with county sewer, it's always him directly involved now.
okay.
no,
Okay, next one, Town of Farmington IMA, we got a new intermunicipal agreement written by them, paid for by them, some of us. Anybody have a chance to review that and?
Yeah, I
look
looked
at
at
it?
it, yeah.
I mean, it's,
I thought it looked pretty good, my only question is, how much does that tax us to be able to provide that? Is that, kind of a drop in the bucket to us, or does that tax us?
it does not tax our tanks, it taxes the tanks that the city owns. Because we are, at the municipal line, we have master meters, and that water comes from the city.
So that comes right from the city.
City, yeah,
and the
Okay, so
city-
we're really just moving it.
Correct,
And also understand that the
Okay.
master meters that are there between the city and the Canandaigua Farmington Water District, they're all one way.
So if
So they
anybody
have
has,
checks on the outlet side of all
Right.
those meters.
so if anybody has trouble supplying that quantity, it's the city themselves.
correct. I believe it's in that IMA that says, the town's not being held responsible for anything that we can't get from the city itself.
Yeah, I thought that looked good, that was my only question.
we'll recommend to the, that'll probably be a resolution and for a meeting.
Does that really require everybody's signature? I think the supervisor would sign on behalf of the town.
We do everything by resolution.
Well, he said signature.
Oh,
Signature on it.
That was Farmington.
The Farmington attorney
Yeah.
wanted it, he's a little.
Yeah,
He's a little,
he's very, what's the right word?
Not saying it.
You gotta work there too, don't you?
Thorough. I think the answer is
thorough, that's the
Thorough.
word, that's the word,
Thorough.
We
Yeah,
didn't
rather
speak
than
record.
picky or.
Thorough.
That was picky.
Okay, good, we'll push that. Water project update, we're heading towards completion, so.
yeah, actually, we got news this morning, the tank is full.
Sweet.
Tank is full, they're gonna adjust, the level of it so it corresponds correctly with it. Monday and Tuesday, we're doing water samples of that tank. So we'll, Department of Health, and I would say, probably by the end of June, we'll get a response from a verbal response.
If I get everything together, we should be able to send it off. The Geneva office has actually been giving the approvals, so they actually have come back pretty quick. But that will help us with getting to the other part of the WIA money. Kate, if you're listening, is that completion part. But paving's supposed to be on Thursday of next week, and then we've got to get finish our startup on the chlorine analyzer, the tablet chlorinator, and the THM removal system. So those are the three startups that I'm waiting for, but would be
Well,
substantially complete on everything else.
We would have probably been done last month, but the actual device that came was defective out of the box. So we had to wait for a new one to come, which they're actually doing today for a chlorine analyzer, or else we could have been done probably with those three items. They've got grass growing around the project. They did a nice job cleaning it up. We got a punch list of items of nothing critical, just
Finish work.
finish work. We still need the shop drawings, the as-bills, warranty information.
All right.
All that stuff still has to be given to Greg. They go through each, we got it. So we do a complete.
Yeah, that's when we get to close out, so that'll be at the final.
Right.
So, when we get to substantial, the biggest thing is we have to have our punch list pretty good.
Mhm.
So we can issue substantial, because that's when the contractors will start to ask for partial release on retainage. And then they have X amount of days past that substantial to reach their final payment. But before they get final, there's a whole closeout checklist that Melissa from my office will send out, and it includes the O&Ms, startup reports, balance reports, warranty information, and certifications on AIS.
Sounds good.
But overall, it's just about done.
Yeah, we're getting there. Yeah.
I will say, those hot days, the one pump kept up no problem, without any issue. Even running at 45 hertz, it was, things were, we were doing about 900,000 a day during those hot spells, which is up a little higher than normal for June, but it was dry and hot, so. I feel confident that if we had to have two pumps, we would be able to keep up, and once our second tank is coming online, it's more storage for us, so.
No, the tanks themselves are not full.
Not yet.
No, the one's at one's full only because they'd be disinfected, so that'll be drained down, and then they'll stay at 36 feet, right? Out of 65 feet.
Right.
Is there anything that, we're doing that purposely because of questions about pressure in the systems, need
Right.
for some more vaults, but is there anything that could occur when we go from that 35 feet to the max that should be looked for, or, any,
Well,
keeping in mind we didn't anticipate the issue we had.
correct.
Right.
So in the one thing here I want to discuss with you about the Trimble unit, there's also another component I was going to bring up about hydrant monitoring of pressure of different ones through the system at the higher pressure grade to see how things go along as we raise the tank up. We're not going to raise it from 36 to 65 once these PRV vaults are going. We may raise it 5 feet and see how things balance out through the system on the high pressure, I'll call it west of the pressure reducing valves that run along a certain grade line along Middle Cheshire Road, off Middle Cheshire Road, and also on Cooley and Town Line, so.
So getting to that maximum height is dependent on, in your mind, these Trimble units. Doing that,
well,
and
that's
putting
it.
pressure monitors and different hydrants to.
Hydrants and the pressure reducing valves, because not all of our valves have monitoring systems on it now. Okay, so all of our pressure reducing valves are mechanical. There's no electric to the structure. Okay, so you want me to go there next?
Yeah, that's-
Oh, okay, I'm
they're
sorry,
really
I wasn't sure if you were.
Well, no, they're so closely tied together to get to that maximum height, we've got to do this or we can't get to the.
So let me just back up a second here. So we are close to putting the PRV valve. The thing that's holding us up are these 2 3-inch pressure reducing valves, which I would call the domestic service that they operate. We're just waiting for them to get here. We have everything here except for that valve. And we can't run off the 8-inch valve because then it's gonna overpressurize the system. That's what we're fire for. So this week, we're starting on 21 near DePaul Horizons. We're putting in an inserter valve and 2 wet taps to start doing that pressure reducing valve. And then once we get that one done, we're going over to Middle Cheshire Road to do that valve. So sometime, I'm hoping by the end of July, we'll have them both online. So just few more weeks, hopefully, and our valve will be here that we're waiting for. I mean, it's like this one, it's like, without this valve, we even if we put it in, we can't even turn them out. So it's, we're just waiting for these two valves to show up. That being said, I've been looking at our current pressure reducing valves have what's called an RTU on it. It's a large gray box, about 30 by 42, 12 inches deep. And they have to be built by hand, who we've been using Calisino for a number of years, to construct this box, put it on top of the vault, get power to it for 2 pressure transducers in the vault. And they cost about $9,000, $10,000 each. But when we're done, we have 7 of these that do not have any monitoring system in them. And these pressure reducing valves are going to be telling us where our pressures are coming in on the high side. And we need to know that, what's going on in the system, so that if we start to creep up with pressure for some reason somewhere, the valve got turned off, someone opened a hydrant, the mechanical part of the PRV stuck open for some reason, because it can happen, and it does. We need to be notified of that so we don't start popping things. So I've been working for the past 2 or 3 months with Telog, which is in Victor. They are a company that been about 40-ish years, been in business, somewhere around there. They're now working with Trimble. So Trimble has worked with Telog. Trimble has got the backbone of the, I'll hand it out to you, of this little box that has all that information that we would typically pay about $9,000 for, in this little box that we can install ourselves. Everything is already there. You take this gray box, you mount it to the wall. It does not need power. It works off a battery. The battery lasts 5 years. So we're not paying for a monthly fee for the meter and power. We're not having to have somebody bring power to the vault. This box has, I don't have the best information for you, I'm sorry guys. We'll have 2 transducers that go to it. All we do is unplug it, plug it in, tighten it up, put the transducer to the pipe, and turn on a battery, and it's done. Okay, so
They also have like, this is all accessible through the web. With these RTUs.
I printed it up, I didn't bring it in.
And it looks like it's cellular.
Yeah, we've been using Telog for a lot of our hydrant flow testing. Particularly when we start with a new municipality on water modeling, we'll set up multiple Telog units in the system, and then we'll do our hydrant flow testing. Gives us better information.
Also, folks, we use SCADA, and I'll pass this around. I apologize, I thought I printed it off. Also comes with what I would call SCADA also, but this is information that we can get up. It tells us it can tell you water hammering, pressures, direction of water. It can be sent to your phone, your computer, anywhere you can log in at any time to get the alerts, just like our SCADA system does now, but at a lesser cost. So if we have, right now, if we were to use a standard, well, you haven't used them for a number of years, RTU on these 7 vaults, we'd be spending around $65,000. 7 of these through Telog and Trimble is $35,000 to do all 7 vaults. And each unit's about $5,000 a piece to be installed versus $9,000 a piece to be installed. These, and that doesn't include the hydrant device, that's just doing the pressure reducing vaults, okay? I'm asking them, kind of telling you guys, like, this is like our first line of defense right here. If something's going on in our system with the elevation of our tanks that goes on, we need to know what's happening, where, with what pressure, what's going on in the system, so we can react to it and control do our best to control why is the pressure increasing throughout our system. I feel strongly that these units are simple enough for all of us to install. We don't need programming written for us every time there's a problem, which whenever we want something done with Calcino, they have to write the program, which costs money, because that's how they're written. Everything's written by a program into their system. They're custom. It does the job, it's just they do it for a greater expense for each individual person, where this here is something like they're Invictor. If something happens to be wrong with it, it's Invictor for parts. The guy who lives in Farmington who reps everything in this area. And it comes simple enough where any of us, our employees, can mount this, wire it, and be done with it. We don't have to go to anybody outside for a third party to fix it. But that's where I would like to see us go with these units for each of the 7 pressure reducing valves that we currently do not monitor now. Because without knowing what's going on, if a pressure reducing valve does stick open, it's going to overpressurize the lower part of our system, which we only know when someone calls us.
Does that happen?
Yeah.
It does.
Mhm.
How frequent?
6, 8 times a year.
Oh, it's frequent enough.
So Chuck, it's inside the component. There's a synthetic gasket or there's a leather gasket, depending on the age of them. And what happens over the years, the chlorine just makes them hard and they don't set.
Mm-hmm.
Or you get we have filters on them, but sometimes what happens is they get a little stone, a little sand in the system. It'll make them stick. So
So the first time you know there's a symptom is when.
when it's
Oh, there's a
open,
problem.
where's the problem?
Somebody calls you and say, hey, I
Yeah.
got the pressure's built up.
Right.
Okay, you certainly don't want that to happen.
No, we don't want that to happen. So
What's the blow off the wall?
go ahead, Hill.
Are we gonna have to build any little special protective container for these ourselves?
They'll mount right on the inside of the concrete vault. We'll drill a hole, put the antenna up, which we already have a hole now for the vents. Mount the antenna to the vent, and that's it. So it's pretty simple unit that we can maintain ourselves without using anybody for a third party to fix or buy parts from or write program.
Antenna in the vault or out?
No, we'll put it out, but we'll run it up by the vent that sticks out.
Is there a vandalism issue? You think?
There's ventilation in all the
No,
ones.
I was thinking vandalism, would it be
Um,
exposed, because you think about one on Middle Cheshire there, where the guy dedicated the easement, right?
We haven't had any vandalism but the ones we have now.
Okay.
No one's bothered them, so
How high is the antenna go to?
it don't have to go up to be 2-3 feet above the ground.
Like that.
Yeah, like the vent, the vents are 42 inches above the ground, just mount it right to that.
Still, one brochure is mounted in the box, in the vault.
Yeah, this goes in the vault.
The antenna's in the vault.
Well, the antenna will come out of the vault and then we have a
But that one brochure had it not look like mounted in the.
It could mount in the vault, I just don't think
Yeah.
it would get out very well.
Okay.
Okay, I just don't think it would get out.
Open it up, Terry, and look down at the pressure juice,
Right.
lower right.
Yeah, it seems it'd be better to
It's hard to get
have an
cell reception
external-
with the
external antenna.
guys
Yeah,
when they're in the vault.
Right.
They usually have to come out and talk to me.
I'd rather have them outside than inside.
That seems like a good plan to reduce the
Oh, no, it
overall
certainly makes sense to
cost.
have it.
And the other thing I was mentioning about the hydrogen.
So can I actually switch it? So I know you said 35,000, right? So if you do that, and I know you're specifically looking at this, that's gonna trigger the whole public works project and all that stuff with the procurement.
Now, because they're sole source,
So your best bet, honestly, I think would be cover of the town board resolution, let the town board approve it by resolution.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah, we should.
okay,
That's what I thought we would do.
that's.
I can't imagine him saying no.
I can't either, but I'm just, we can do
We
a
have more
resolution.
incidents like down by the church.
Right.
Do you have, I was just looking at your budget line there, you've got some money in equipment, but do you think you have enough?
Well, what I'd like to know is, could we use the capital project, if there's any funds left in the,
Oh, that's the one we're talking
the
about.
one we were talking about the
Yes,
other
yes,
day,
yes,
because
yes.
there are some funds
Yes,
left
yes,
in
I
that
forgot
to
that.
pay for this to be done, so.
Yeah.
That way
Because you
there,
have some contingency money that you should have.
correct.
It's gonna be quite a bit of that, I'm not there.
We do, I just, that, my thought was we could use that to pay for these, the
There,
water district, so. The other thing I handed out, guys, was, this is a pressure monitor system on fire hydrants that threads right on the end of the 2.5-inch hydrant. Now, this is a different cost, I just want to bring it to your attention, this is not part of the original cost, I told you, all right? I would like to deploy 4 of these out in the system above the high water pressure side, so we can tell what is going on before it even gets to the PRV as we fill this tank. You follow what I'm saying? Like, so by the time it gets to the PRV, let's say it's at 160, well, what is it over here also on our pipe, on our system? Is what I'm looking for. I'll take an example like, before it comes down Butler Road, or before it comes down Parish Street Extension, 21, Cooley Road, or Hickox Road. What is, when we bring that tank up to full height of water, what are we looking at before it even gets to the PRV? Is my thought, because not all of our water main is be plastic, like, we still have Johnson Road, Wells Curtis Road, parts of, a little bit of Knott Road, they're all ACP still. And then we have all of Hickox Road and Cooley Road, that's all ACP and 5 and 20. So like Hopkins Road would be a good spot to put one of these to determine how that is for pressure out in that area. Because we don't know without putting something on there to log the stuff all the time.
What are these units cost?
These units each are 2,500 apiece. And there's a 50% discount. Yeah, special discount now. I can't believe, there he goes, it's a 50% discount on those units right now, they're 2,500.
sure, really.
Yep.
Yeah. Amazon.
So,
Yeah, they don't always deliver. Chuck.
So, these are items that I think are crucial to knowing what's going to go on throughout the system when we start filling these tanks to 65 feet, because we don't want to have any issues that we've unfortunately had to go through on Middle Cheshire Road. And I realize it's money being spent, but these things would also be used throughout the system, not just our district, but like, let's say people are complaining about water hammer, people are saying they don't have enough pressure. We can locate these on different hydrants and subdivisions and say, okay, we're gonna run it for a week, bring back the data, see what's going on. We can put them on dead ends when people are saying the water pressure's dropping out there. Well, what time did it drop? Is someone using a lot of water? Those types of things. So,
Did these report like the others?
yes, it does.
Okay, so you got a real time.
Everything
Pressure.
comes right back to you, as far as pressure drops, spikes.
So initially you use it for those high points you talked about, and then you
Yeah.
take them off, you have them available to put them on troubleshooting at other locations
Correct.
as you need them, okay? So I was thinking, well, maybe Trimble could lease you for them to do the initial study you wanted to do, but if you need them for future uses, then
We can
it's good
also,
to have them in the shop.
we can also do fire flows with these. We can set these up for determining fire flows for when people come to build. Put on each one, open one up, it pulls the data off that to get your fire
I
flows.
certainly see the value of not just seeing this.
So,
And you're half load of smoke.
Perpetual use.
no, they're 15%, not half.
Oh, it's
Half.
No, 15.
Oh, 15.
15, sorry.
I said 50.
That's 50% off, so. Oh, yeah, 50, sure, I buy them all day, but.
Well,
Yeah,
it's a
well,
good idea though, I mean, how, you guys did modeling for what pressures would be.
Yep.
Have you ever taken that Madeline and then gone out with something like this and look to see what,
Yeah,
how close to the Madeline?
we have telelock units, we put them out on that. It's always, they always get pretty close, and they're, 10% or so.
Yeah.
So, but what you don't necessarily catch, particularly when you just do a, static height and flow test, is you're really getting a snapshot.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, versus if you put these things out in the system and you
Yeah.
run them for a week straight, it's a little bit different, data.
Then you can actually-
The other part too is that what's nice on these is there's alarm features. So you can set it so that, like, if you see a low pressure, you get an alarm, or if you have an overpressure, you get an alarm. Gives them, feedback without necessarily standing there watching a needle. So it makes a lot of sense to have these available.
If we didn't have a high pressure system, I wouldn't be pushing this so much,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
along the lake, it's 180 all day long. It's just a challenge.
Well, we also have an aging infrastructure here. As you pointed out, that ACP pipe, that pipe in front of my house, it's been there 50 years, or more than 50 years.
Mhm.
You don't know what's going on underground. This would be a benefit to help monitor that whole situation.
Yeah, we do it in the summer months, because you can't leave the hydrant full in the winter because it will freeze, so.
Yeah.
But you could probably leave it out there for a lukewarm November if something was going on, but like February, probably not so much.
Yeah, if you had the January thaw, you could go look.
Right.
Leave them out for a few days or something, get a snapshot at least at that point.
I also give them ideas of where breaks might be as well, or when they occur.
Yeah, you could drop the pressure and you'll find a break.
Is it strictly pressure, or does it do anything with like water quality? I mean, like.
No,
Not water quality, you can get flow, there is an adder to do a flow sensor, but I think a flow sensor is kind of pricey.
I have to wonder, you're talking about pipes, like what's going on in our pipes, like underneath exactly what you said, or is there a buildup of stuff on them?
so the ACP pipe is normally clean on the inside. We don't have cast iron, so we don't get what we call tuberculosis. We don't have those, the cast rusting inside. What we do have is a lot of, when they bed it in the stone, then 40 years when you dig it up, it's like the cement has leached to the stone and actually,
Don't
It's
dive in.
it's actually adhered itself to the AC pipe.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes, it's kind of punky feel, like you can kind of put your fingernail in it and dig it a little bit. And like particularly down by, for whatever reason, down by Terry's house, the pipe is like that. Well, I'm just saying,
Might
yeah.
be the soils too.
It's definitely,
It's the guy using it.
I mean, you had something,
Yep.
maybe, I don't know, during the winter or something, or you.
Greg and I talked about it.
Yeah,
We gotta find a lab to send a piece to.
yeah,
Right.
talking about that leaching out of, from the cement, you start degrading it from the outside in.
Correct.
But see, you take a piece of it, again, it's only specific to that piece of pipe in that particular condition.
Right, the pH of the soil, or the
Right,
whatever.
there's so many, and that was, I think, at the end of the day, is like through all the research that we did on AC pipe, was that it's relatively nebulous to understand what life expectancy is left of the AC pipe, and also, determining the condition without destructive measures.
That was it, some guy did a study.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a
I mean, it was really good, yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
It's a really good read, to try and give us an idea of what it would, where we at with the
Yeah,
pipe, so.
Well, that resolution just grew.
Yeah,
We should add this in, really. I mean, that's protection for our system. And that's,
well, when, we need to know what's going on
Yeah.
in the system, so
Okay.
when something goes wrong, we can figure out how to fix it.
maybe get a tip off that something may be coming. So
Right.
we could do something about it, react before there's some disaster, so.
This is something you need to mention.
Yeah, because these are, I'll put it on, but I'm just saying, it's an 8-week lead time right now on these
Oh.
before you see these, so. But yes,
Well, we haven't, this year, spent a lot of money, so we should do that.
yeah,
I mean, this building, the water project, we haven't,
Terry, I do spend a lot of money, okay, I get it, I understand, I'm the one who's.
This bond of $3.5 million.
I'm the one who takes.
yeah, but that's,
This protects your investment. I mean, that's.
Right, recorded, Terry.
That's just not-
anything else on the water project? I mean, it's coming to conclusion. Now all that's left is to name those two tanks. I'm suggesting the Blues Brothers.
Little brothers.
Yeah.
Frickin' frack.
All right, anything else on this, or?
No,
Cause you gotta get that resolution written.
well,
By the
I'll
end
get
of the
it,
day today.
I'll get it done. Go ahead.
The only other thing was Middle Cheshire Road, 520 intersection, turning lane. We had gotten, a few weeks ago, the state had done some borings down Middle Cheshire Road, the bypass, we're gonna put up some new, traffic signals next year. Originally, going back in time here, when the Villas project was approved, it was done under what's called incentive zoning. The town allowed the developer to have some flexibility in setbacks and issues like that, from a planning perspective, in return for certain amenities. Well, some of the amenities, we bought the Albury property, the swamp on Middle Cheshire Road. They put a turning lane in to go into the city if you're heading north on Middle Cheshire Road. The trail, there are a whole bunch of things they did. One of the items that was supposed to be included was that short piece of Middle Cheshire Road from Parish Street to the bypass was supposed to have the turning lane put in. So you'd have a turning lane and then a straight. Well, anyway, that thing got shot down by a combination of the developer and the engineering company, like that, BME. And that thing went from full lane, it kept a couple feet and then a couple more feet. All of a sudden, you've got something that's this wide and it's not really a lane. So Jim suggested that with the state doing their work, maybe this is the time to go after them and say, hey, look, we really need to do something with that intersection. We need to do something with, the structure of that road. So you had already gone to them and asked them about it. I wanted to bring it up here, present it to you guys and see if this group would endorse having the town board put something together, to endorse what Jim has suggested. Talking with Doug about it the other day, we also have a situation up at the north end of town, which
Well, that
you can
whole,
detail that.
that whole North Street, County Road 28 North Road intersection that we met with DOT repeatedly,
Right.
including right before COVID, and they said they were gonna get back to us.
I haven't heard anything.
So,
Haven't done-
Yeah,
Because of COVID.
sure.
No, I haven't heard anything.
But we also now have 2 planning studies that detail both of these intersections, that both call for this.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
DOT was part of both of them.
No, I
That's
think
what
it's
I
a
was
good
thinking,
idea.
yeah.
Yeah.
You've got justification now. More justification.
Just bring it up to the town board at our meeting and it'll take a while, because they're not gonna do this work till next year.
2022.
Yeah.
Correct.
There's some time, of course, dealing with the state, want to have 2 or 3 years in the back of it.
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll
Mhm.
do that. Any other topics? Anything else that you want to talk about?
Just real quick, the residents on Wallhouse Road, back in 2017, we created a district.
Oh, Wallhouse Road here.
Wallhouse Road, what did I say?
Yeah,
you
you
said
said Wallhouse,
Wallhouse.
yeah, you're right.
They've been vocal lately, they want water, I said, understood, I said, but that Met Plan report is 4 years old. I go, it will not be the same price we once discussed with you in 2017. So,
It won't go down.
yeah, I explained that to him, I said, so, because back then we did say, the tanks have to be built, I was have to get in, well, they can see the tanks, and now they're looking to talk about water, I said, well,
I thought there was an issue with that, though, when we held the public hearings then. I thought there was some opposition associated with the cost.
there was.
Yeah.
And I told the gentleman on the phone, I said, look, we'll have to re-present the information again to the residents of the area if they want to go forward with it, and majority say yes without a big stake, that's one thing I said, but if they don't, you might have to go to a vote to see if you get it extended, so.
Well, the issue was also was that it was over out of control.
Oh, yeah,
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 it was,
so
um,
comptroller never approved it, I don't think. I think we submitted it, I think.
I haven't a clue.
I think.
So I don't
I'm
know.
pretty sure the town attorney submitted, but I don't think it got approved.
But normally they would, I know, but if they decline it, they usually send you a ding letter, but
And
So,
haven't
like,
seen that.
I don't, yeah, so
It was
I,
also when we were changing town
It's
attorney.
right, so I don't, you know,
so it was 1305 and 17 was what the debt service would be.
well, at $19 a foot for HVAC,
Well,
it's gonna cost more.
I explained that to him, like, oh, right now is not a good time to be putting in water mains, so, but I said, I'll speak to the Public Works Committee and we'll, bring it up at the town board meetings, get a new net plan report and doesn't cross that bridge with the residents again.
What's that cost us?
It shouldn't be much for an update.
We just gotta change the numbers.
Yeah,
I
I just gotta open the
really
report.
This year, it's not any larger district or.
We might just see what the new assessment rates are.
Yeah.
Okay, cause that's probably
Oh, yeah.
changed to 17.
Yeah, the denominator exchange.
Right, so,
But the numerator.
I mean, basically,
Well, we
the
gotta,
report's done, we just gotta redo the numbers.
Yeah.
We have a,
you have a different O&M rate than what we had at that point in
Yeah.
time. I think the water rates changed.
Right.
And then obviously the capital budget will change, and then, the tax, so I mean, it's just changing numbers and then.
I don't think the number of units has significantly changed though, because I don't think we've built much out in that area.
no,
Is there any new builds?
I don't think there are any.
There's a guy that he got a site plan approved.
there is one persistent
Yeah,
chunk,
sits back, like on a flag lot.
it does, there's 3 flag lots back there. Off
That's all.
21. So, and just, people from the south end, the residents, have been, they call them, they ask them about water questions, and what I tell them is like elevation. I go, we don't have a tank or a pump to push it south. I said, so, there's no time in the future that water's coming, I'll say, south of Cheshire, unless we find a lot of money to make something like that happen, guys, because it just, elevation just doesn't, is our enemy out there.
Well, elevation, you're enemy everywhere though, I mean, that's why you have a high pressure system.
I mean, we've looked at that property off of Smith Road to put a tank up there, which then could push it
Right.
all the way south. But then you're gonna have you're gonna have
Another zone.
another zone, because they won't be able to feed back into our existing zone. But, people are asking,
No, that's, we could put that together, $50-60 probably.
Right. For me, yeah,
Few minutes.
buy all the rest of my syrup.
do we wanna bring up Keister Ave real quick? Or is that
Yeah,
another
that's,
conversation?
yeah, you wanna, we had a complaint from a business owner in Cheshire, Easter Avenue, between A's and the liquor store there. The guy that owns the liquor store was complaining that we don't do an adequate job of maintaining Keister, is it Avenue or?
It's
Road?
Keister Ave.
Yeah. But it's not really a traffic area, I mean, we have the water filling station and at the end of the road, the avenue. But it doesn't really get all that much traffic, so it's not in that bad a shape. I mean, there are a few potholes here and there, little things, but he was complaining about that we didn't do a great job of it. And I know that Jim and Jared were down there the other day and looking at it and talking to the guy. But Jim had a very innovative solution to the problem,
I did,
which he would like to present right now.
absolutely, I would like to sell that. I would like to sell that non-public use piece of property to those businesses and eliminate the situation for the town to maintain something that, in my opinion, has no public use.
Would you have to
It's
change,
about,
would you have to change where the fill station is?
I would like to change it to fill stations, because the reason is they
Yeah.
do nasty things down there.
Mhm.
That is not so nice, and they're constantly taking off our air gap, and they're doing things, they should do down there, but we have no way, it's not necessarily in the public eye, put it that way.
Right.
I would like,
Versus having something here.
I would keep it in Chester still, but I like to come off Goodell Road
Oh,
Yeah.
and use our driveway already that we have going to the pump station,
Right.
put an eyebrow in.
That
Something
makes sense.
there, so they can just, and then we have a way to monitor, like it's more to the public.
Right, you can get a camera there
Yeah,
too
we can
easily.
do that also,
Yeah.
so kind of put that out there. But also, you know, that little, it's like 700 feet of road, it's less than 1,000 feet. And there are ways where we can do this through highway law to remove that and sell it to the owners of that property. Now, there's one thing we have to do is, we probably have to give, we're gonna need an easement over it, because we have a water main that runs down that road behind Cheshire. And then an easement to the two adjacent property owners, that they have egress to their property that's back there. So, but I would like to eliminate something like that completely, as I don't feel serves the public in any way other than it's a parking area for the businesses in the area that use it now. It's not like there's nobody that lives down there. They get water in the summertime. The barn is in not the best of shape, needs a new roof. The electric's mediocre throughout it. I don't know if it's any more sort of a historical value to the town. We probably have to look into that, but personally, I would like to see it sold to them. They can do what they want with their property, with their businesses, and improve it the way they want. And we're right out of it.
How big each property is?
It's,
8 to 9?
maybe. It's nothing enormous, Al, so I
So
think
it's 700 feet by
30-ish feet wide.
Well, the other thing is,
I'm
keep
sorry,
in mind,
60.
we had it surveyed not that long ago, and the area that it looks like is the town property actually is on Rose property also.
Correct.
We're encroaching.
chunk of it that we thought was ours.
Ours, yeah. And then that goes, A's is actually in the town's right of way, like a third of the buildings in the town's right of way.
There are a number of issues in that area that probably would be a good solution, to do something like that. And this just, it wasn't on the agenda, and it's springing on you.
Right, it's just something for discussion.
Maybe take a look at it, when you get an opportunity,
Yeah.
just scope it out, and see what you think of it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not looking for any, I just want to break.
Which property
Yeah.
owner would be interested or could?
They're
be interested?
owned both by the same people. A's and the liquor store are owned by the same
Okay,
people,
same family.
same family.
Okay, then you'd be abandoning
In a sense, we would be
the road and it'd revert back to the flooding property.
correct.
There are a number of
With
issues
easements.
that, with A's itself, that could be resolved in doing something like this.
Yeah, it's, and correct me if I'm wrong, Doug, the businesses there want to do additional business with filling propane tanks and some other stuff, but because of code, I don't know, don't ask me a lot of questions, but they couldn't come off a main road to get to the something, so if we were to sell it to him, I believe that he could have this propane filling station off 21 where they can enter and exit with doing that, filling up propane tanks. So it's just,
You're talking about selling the lot, not the right of way.
yeah,
The
so.
right of way would be, the right of way would be abandoned, so
Right.
that would revert back probably without any change of money. But I think the lot in the back that the town owns,
I think
That's the one
just
we talked
surplus
about.
that.
Surplus that,
Sell it to the
yeah,
responsible bidder or whatever.
which would come down to, obviously we have to get an appraisal, see what that lot's worth. So,
make A's conforming because now
Right.
they own their own
Right.
property.
But what if somebody besides the business owners tries to purchase it? And then, and A's is virtually in the property.
that's a good question. I don't know how the answer to that one is, but
I don't remember the exact lot line of that particular parcel, but it could potentially be, well, if there was an easement, so it wouldn't matter, right? We put an easement across that area,
it'd be like a large flag lot.
right of access type thing,
Yeah.
it would be a large flag.
So, but think all right, I mean,
No, makes sense.
it would help them business wise and,
The only other thing associated with that is we did give permission, I know there was a town board resolution a number of years ago for the Cheshire Theater Meeting Hall to use that parking
Yeah.
lot for once it ever does something, so.
right,
Yeah, but that would also present an opportunity. I was thinking about that, talking with Jared the other day, that community in Cheshire, they could perhaps construct some kind of parking lot over there. Work with the Cheshire Community Action Team, CCAT. You know, I mean, it opens up some other opportunities, perhaps business-wise, and for that Grange Hall. So it could be a real win all the way around here. Yeah. Okay,
that's all I got.
that's all I got too. So, unless anyone has anything else,
Anything else?
we're done till next month.
Sounds
Very
good.
good. Good meeting.
Excellent.